The African Cup of Nations, African football's grandest stage. The 2017 competition, originally scheduled to be hosted in Libya before ongoing war in the country forced a move to Gabon, has had it all. On the pitch, there's been great goals and late winners, and off it we've had fans filling the streets with songs.
There's always the colour, but there's also the noise.
If we compare the Afcon to the Euros, you have the usual suspects more or less competing for the Euros every day, the Spains, the Germanys, the Frances. It's a bit different in Africa. Every 2 years you find someone who you don't expect challenging for the tournament.
However, the Afcon hasn't all been smiles. We've had controversy from the start, with anti-tournament protests demanding a boycott due to the expense of Gabon hosting the tournament for a second time in 5 years. And attendances were noticeably small, with empty seats in the stadiums.
People largely did not feel like they were part of it in the country. They didn't want to host it because they felt that too much of their public purse was being dedicated to this 3-week tournament.
The Afcon is, however, more than just an expensive tournament that causes top European clubs to nervously await the return of their stars. From Uganda's celebrations after qualifying for the Cup for the first time in 39 years, to the streets of Libreville, where players and fans dance to the rhythms from across the continent. Defending champions Ivory Coast and hot favourites Algeria both failed to live up to pre-tournament hype and fell at the first hurdle, despite boasting some of Europe's top stars in the likes of Wilfried Zaha and Riyad Mahrez. The Ivory Coast shock exit was, however, not that shocking, as it was the 12th time in the Afcon's 31 tournament history that a defending champion bowed out in the first round.
They probably underestimated their opposition in the group stages.
I think we've had a lot of interesting twists and turns in the tournament.
After a tight quarter-final, only the 2013 finalists Burkina Faso were able to progress with a goal difference of more than +1, with an impressive 2-0 win over 2004 champions Tunisia. Record 7-time holders Egypt booked their place in the semis by knocking out Morocco with a 1-0 victory.
A lot of people around the continent have a very soft spot for Egypt.
Sports right now is probably the only thing that would make Egyptians happy, since everything else is not going according to plan.
While Ghanaian brothers Jordan and Andre Ayew both scored to send the Black Stars to their 6th consecutive Afcon semi-final at the expense of DR Congo. There was drama in Franceville, with marquee star Sadio Mane turning villain by missing the deciding penalty that crushed Senegal's dreams of going on to win a first ever Afcon title, sending Cameroon marching into the semis. Essam El Hadji became an Egyptian hero by denying both Burkina Faso's young goalkeeper Kofi as well as Bertrand Traoré from the spot to send Egypt storming into the final.
Once the Burkina Faso game was over, everyone was on the streets celebrating.
Cameroon, touted before the tournament as the worst Cameroonian team in a generation, and without 7 of their players who decided to stay in Europe with their clubs.
People like Joel Matip, who play for Liverpool, and other key players around Europe, said they were not going to feature for Cameroon because they didn't see any future for the team.
Outplayed Ghana in the second semi to book their place in the final with Egypt.
If their first choice players came, most of these players who won the Afcon would not have even had game time. So it was, for them, all or nothing.
The Ghana Football Association tasked our coach, Israeli Abraham Grant, to win the 2017 Africa Cup. So that was his target. It was a clear KPI given to him, and obviously he has failed.
And in that final, Cameroon's supposed worst team in a generation slotted home an 88th minute winner to give Cameroon their first Afcon trophy for 15 years.
It was a moment of individual brilliance that rarely happens against the nation Egypt,
leaving their captain in tears and their fans in raptures. The true beauty of the Afcon.